All right, folks, it is time for the final video in the Outdoor Vitals Mountain Pursuit line review series. So over the last week or two, I've posted my review of the Altura pants and the Vantage Puffy that you can go watch over here. And today we are gonna dive into the Hybrid Pursuit Fleece. Now, many of you know that one of the pieces of apparel that is always on the top of my gear list is the Sitka Ambient. So this piece is a direct competitor to that piece. And so the question is, will the Hybrid Pursuit Fleece be able to dethrone the Sitka Ambient as my favorite piece of dynamic insulation moving forward into 2026? Before we get into my subjective experience, let's go over the specs. So this piece is meant for all season use from early through mid all the way into late season. The insulation material at the core of this garment is Primaloft Evolve at 75 grams per square meter. This is a high pile open face polyester. The face fabric is a 30D stretch woven nylon with DWR that is capable of 50 cubic feet per minute air permeability, which is extremely significant, and we're gonna get into that in a little bit. The grid fleece is 91% polyester with 9% spandex and is 200 grams per square meter. The large version of this garment comes in at 10 ounces. The fit is very athletic and it actually takes some getting used to. And I'm gonna make some more notes on that when we get into the sizing and fit portion of the review. And the retail price for this garment is $140 US. So the main difference between this and the original Sitka Ambient is the body mapped panels, both of the face fabric and the internal insulation, switching between Primaloft Evolve and a more standard grid fleece, depending on the location of the body. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up a couple images from Outdoor Vitals to help explain this. So here you were looking at the composite fabric. So you have the body mapped face fabric, which is this 30D stretch nylon. Then you have the Primaloft Evolve open face polyester at your core insulation. And then you have body mapped panels of the 91% polyester, 200 grams per square meter grid fleece. Now, if we go over and look at the actual design of the garment, you are going to see that throughout the core area, kind of across the chest and upper torso, and then through the mid-back from the traps, kind of all the way down to your erectors, you have the Primaloft Evolve plus the 30D nylon face fabric. Then when we go to our high stretch areas, like through the lats, into the sleeves, and the kind of bottom half of the torso, this is where we have this like super stretchy grid fleece that's a little more durable and provides a little bit more versatility to the garment. Now, one of the things I noticed about this garment right out of the gate is that I could wear it almost constantly. As long as it wasn't, significantly warm outside where no insulation was necessary at all. The thing with the Sitka Ambient is unless it is notably cold, if you try and hike with that thing on, you will sweat. Now it does evacuate moisture quite well, so you're able to process that sweat, and it's not like you get overly wet, but it's definitely not the most comfortable thing in the world to wear while you're hiking. So there's definitely more taking it off and putting it back on with the Sitka Ambient. What I noticed with the Hybrid Pursuit Fleece, and I paired this with the Stone Glacier Avro, I would say 90% of the time. And for me, that was like a home run combination. I could literally wear that through an extreme variation of temperatures and activity levels, and it would just very successfully moderate both my heat and my moisture evacuation. So very rarely did I have to take this piece on and off. Once I decided to put it on, I could just leave it on. I could hike with it, sit with it, glass with it, do a variety of activities. Now, one thing to note, this is not as warm as the OG Sitka Ambient. And I know there are updated versions of the Sitka Ambient that also have some body mapped panels, and they also reduced the amount of Primaloft Evolve in future versions of the Sitka Ambient. But if you own the original Sitka Ambient, just the straight up hoodie that's 100% Primaloft Evolve. I think it's 100 grams per square meter in that particular garment. I would say it is about 15 to 20% warmer than the Hybrid Pursuit Fleece. So keep that in mind when you're preparing for trips. Now, so far, this garment seems very durable. There is definitely some piling going on in some of the high wear areas where they use the Face 30D nylon. Not the grid fleece is showing basically no points of wear as of yet, but I'll do some close-ups and kind of show some of the piling. And if you go back to my Altura pants review, I'm wondering if there's not some similarities between the material they're using in the pants and the material that they're using in the face fabric, because the piling is almost identical on both garments. However, from my experience, I think this is more of a cosmetic effect than an actual structural effect. I'm not worried about burning holes in this thing yet, but to be fair, it is kind of visually unappealing, and you wouldn't expect there to be this much piling this early on in the life of the garment. Now, I told you I was gonna get into the very athletic fit, and I think that's one of the things that takes a little bit to get used to in this garment, but also helps make it so successful. So let's go over and I'll try this on and we'll have a bit of a conversation about size and fit and some of the things I think you need to look out for if you're gonna purchase this garment. All right, so I'm actually gonna start by putting this piece on camera to give you an idea of how athletic the fit is, because it might not be for everybody. Also, I've kind of come up with a bit of a trick of how to put this on so it goes on the best and creates as few kind of rumple zones as possible. So this is literally straight out of the washing machine and the dryer, so it's kind of as small as it's ever gonna get. Once you wear it for a day or two on a backcountry hunt, it does open up and there's a bit more mobility. I start with my thumbs through the thumb holes in the Stone Glacier Avro. I always start with just one sleeve, and I make sure that the seam is coming up the inner part of my forearm so that I don't have to rotate the sleeve later on. And then I do the exact same thing with the exact same seam on the other side. Come over the top, kind of get the sleeves lined up, and then bring this down. And then it does take a little bit to kind of get it situated. Bring your hands back through the thumb holes. And here's the thing, if you just take a minute and get this thing sitting just right with your base layer, and this is, for me, what makes it so different from the Sitka Ambient. Now look at how, so I'm in an extra large right now. I am 6'1", currently like 230 pounds, and this is an extremely tapered fit. And that's why I think the kind of moisture evacuation and the temperature management works so well, because it's basically like body, base layer, dynamic insulation. So the whole kind of thing is operating as one unit. I think it also helps some of the durability because there are less kind of bunchy areas and the face fabric is not as loose. Like the face fabric on the Sitka Ambient gets caught on everything as you're kind of walking around, branches, twigs, etc. This is so tight to your body that there's literally nothing for it to catch on. Now, the other thing I really like is the hood design. You guys know I'm a bit of a stickler when it comes to hoods. It stays back off my face. It doesn't have a bunch of extra material kind of drooping over my eyes. It's got the kind of wide panel through the middle. Yeah. The fit on this thing is outstanding. When I first got this, I got an XL and a double XL. And at first I thought I was gonna have to wear the double XL. And once I forced myself to get through a day or two with the XL, it became immediately apparent how much better this garment works when you wear it tight with your other layers. And so I would recommend getting a size that's gonna fit you athletically like this, because I think the garment is gonna work better. It's gonna feel a little bit tight and awkward at first, but trust me, you're gonna get used to it and it's gonna work way better. So there you go, size and fit thoughts on the Hybrid Pursuit Fleece from Outdoor Vitals. All right, let's dive into my final thoughts and conclusions on the Hybrid Pursuit Fleece from Outdoor Vitals. So for me, this will be permanently replacing my Sitka Ambient. I think the only exception might be on an extreme late winter hunt. If I was doing like a January or February goat hunt, I think the Sitka Ambient would probably be the better choice. But for 95% of my other hunts, this is my go-to dynamic insulation layer. As always, the caveat here is durability. Until I have 2 or 3 seasons in this garment, I can't really comment as to how long or how well it's gonna hold up. But based on the days in the field I have in this thing so far and the wear and tear I'm seeing, it looks like it should have a satisfactory lifespan. So if you guys found that helpful and you wanna see more non-biased, unsponsored gear reviews, head on over to mindful-reviews.com, sign up for one of the subscription plans, and help me make more content for you guys. If you can engage with the content in any way, shape, or form, I would greatly appreciate it. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and as always, thank you for tuning in.